Benvenuti tifosi napolitani to another edition of the Far From Vesuvius podcast. This is a special series that we're starting today. My name is Raffa, and today I'm joined by a new voice, a new guest of the show. His name is also Raffa, Ralph Bizzarro. Ralph, what's going on, man? How's it going?
Ciao, Belly. How are you, Ralph? Happy to be here today.
Yes, that's good. I'm happy to have you here. Ralph and I are pretty good friends. We talk a lot, on Messenger, and we call each other every now and then. Ralph is pretty much the man in charge of Calcio Napoli Club USA on Facebook, which is one of the better clubs, Napoli clubs on Facebook that I've been a part of, and I'm happy to be a contributor to that club as well. Ralph made some pretty cool T-shirts and had them sent out to all the club members too, which was awesome. But Ralph, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your Napoli fandom and the club?
Yeah, well, Bizzarro is my real last name for anybody thinking it is my real last name. My mother, born in southern Italy. She was born in Caserta, which is a little inland of Napoli. My father was a New Yorker. So it's obviously natural that I became a Napoli fan. And then I guess once ADL took over, I feel like that's when I became more of a hardcore fan, since it was more available and easier to kind of come by. It was like it rejuvenated my love and my interest. And then this year on February, I was involved in a couple different clubs like New York and a few other clubs, but I wanted to really kind of start my own, have a place that other Napoli Dons could come, such as yourself, that had podcasts and things, that just wanted to share their info and share their support and their opinions, and just an overall cool place to be, and to try to network and show the rest of the world that the Italian Americans are here, and whether you're Italian or not doesn't matter. We have so many different people, and I love that, from all over the place, and and it's just a good place to be. I met a lot of good friends, such as yourself. I learned about Far From Vesuvius. I became a huge fan of you guys. So it's just, for me, overall, it's been an awesome experience, just as it's been for you.
Excellent. And the club's really been growing too, as of late. I really do like the feedback that we get. I share a lot of our stuff on there, and getting some pretty good feedback too. So Ralph, today we're introducing a new segment, and it's a segment that I like to call, and I named myself.
All right.
That's why I had two names. My first name was Azzurro in Mondo.
Okay.
Right? Azzurro nel Mondo, which obviously, blue in the world. Napoli players that are in the world, literally translated, but meaning the Napoli players that are off to their national teams. But I decided to change the name, Ralph, and I think you're going to like this. Ready? NazioNapoli. How about that? NazioNapoli.
There we go.
Napoli. We are going to focus on Napoli players on international duty, hence NazioNapoli.
NazioNapoli. I love it, Raffa.
What do you think?
Good choice. I love it. Good choice. Good choice. It has a ring to it.
Yes, it does. So I know that there are not a lot of, there are a lot of fans out there who appreciate the national teams and the national games and stuff like that. The national team breaks, like the international breaks during the beginning of a season, can be very annoying, because it leaves it open to more injury and more issues and fatigue and stuff like that. But at the same time, the national game is very much a part of the culture of the sport. Everybody does get up for these national team tournaments, the World Cup, Euros, the Copa America and what have you. But the recent edition of the Nations League has been seen as a joke to many people. I think it's a pretty decent idea to rid the system of meaningless friendlies.
Yes.
And it gives a little more meaning to matches, which means, more competitive games, and it forces people to become more competitive. So for me, I'm for it to an extent. But I mean, we'll get into all that. We're gonna start focusing on the players that are away on international duty for Napoli. I have a list here, Ralph, that I'm gonna read off. 16 players were chosen.
Right.
Yep. So that's an unprecedented number for Napoli.
Raffa, it's. I think throughout the years in the ADL era, we've had many international players starting on our pitch. I feel like, it's always been a large contingency because we've had so many players from different parts of the world that started on their respective teams that it was always a long list of Napoli players. But just interject.
No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. But I feel like this is the most deep that we've been in a long time. Hence the fact that we've got more national team players on our team. And, we just have to accept it. And that's the way it is. These players will go off and play. So I'm going to read the list off too. By the way, before we get started, Ralph, your name is Ralph, or is it Raffaele like mine?
It's Raffaele. Raffaele.
So it's Raffaele. So our names are Raffaele. And here's a funny story. For our tifosi out there, everyone outside of my calcio community calls me Ralph too. Okay. So I'm Ralph to everyone else. Okay. Only I'm Ralph with an F. But
okay,
I was given the name Raffa, which my dad is the only one that really calls me Raff because he still has a very heavy Italian accent. So I was always Raff to my dad, and everyone else was Ralph. So just so you know, we have Raff and Raff here.
Raff and Raff is here to stay. You're right. No, I was the same way. It was like all my American friends. I was Ralph naturally, but to my family in Italy, it would be Raff or Raffi.
Raffi. Yeah. My Zia Luisa calls me Raffi. Raffi.
Yeah. Raffi. Yeah. So, but whatever you guys want to call me, I'm cool.
It's fine. I mean, Raff and Raff. I like that. So let's just drop that for a second.
Right.
All right. So Portieri, we had Meret was selected to the Italian national team and Ospina to the Colombian national team. Difensori, we have Di Lorenzo to Italy, Husai to Albania, Koulibaly to Senegal, Rrahmani to Kosovo, and Mayori to Portugal. Our centrocampisti, Elmas with North Macedonia, Fabian with Spain, Lobotka with Slovakia, and Zielinski with Poland. And then our attaccanti was Insigne with Italy, Lozano with Mexico, Mertens with Portugal, Osimhen with Nigeria, and it doesn't stop there. Our 16th player was Milik with Poland. Now, whether he's on the squad for Napoli or not, he is still a Napoli player and was selected, so we have to include him there. 16 players, even though the team didn't. The team really had a squad of 15 players, but it was 16. But okay, so
I believe you said Mertens for Portugal.
Sorry.
So Mertens for Belgium.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
What I did realize in my notes here, as I was reading that off, is I completely forgot about Chooky Lozano being.
Yes.
So if you've got the info on that, I'll let you take that lead because I completely forgot that Lozano was chosen for Mexico.
Yeah.
I think he played in one or two games. I think he played in one game.
I think it was the game against South Korea. He played.
Yes.
And
all the fog.
With the fog. Yeah. So I don't even think they saw the game. It was so foggy.
People who watched it didn't see it. So why don't we start with you then, Ralph? Why don't we talk about Mexico and Lozano before we go on? If you've got notes there on what happened to him.
Well, I missed the game. Wasn't televised on any of the apps I had, unfortunately, so I had to go through the highlights. It was definitely a foggy day. Lozano kind of being the Lozano that we see on Napoli, just fast-paced. I think he was stationed a little bit more up top for the formation. He received kind of like a long ball pass and just took it forward, moved to the right, and beat the goalie on the far side on like a nice low kick right into the far side corner. And that was it. That was pretty much most of the game. And it was just Chooky being Chooky. This super fast dude just blowing through defenders. We kind of saw it the last game, I believe, when he took I believe it was a long ball from Di Lorenzo, and they just can't catch him. His acceleration is just so ridiculous that he can chase down that ball. And I think that's what he wants. You see him kind of calling it like, go, send it over my head. And,
right.
and because he's confident enough that, like, I'll chase this ball down and I'll beat this defender. And he did that against Korea, and, again, just came up with the goal. So, I know it's South Korea. Obviously, the defense maybe is not as difficult to face as it is in Italy, but it's still a testament to his speed and what he's capable of doing. So, shout out to Chooky there and the Mexican team for coming away with a win.
Okay, great. So let's move on. So Chooky had a pretty good outing. Then we'll determine. Let's start with Italy, because that's going to be the meat of our conversation today.
Sure.
So on Wednesday, Italy played against Estonia in a 4-0 victory, a friendly. What's noteworthy here, as far as Napoli is concerned, is Di Lorenzo played the full 90 minutes of that match. Insigne, I'll just get off and start and say Meret didn't play at all. He sat on the bench. I think Sirigu got the nod for that one. In a friendly, Di Lorenzo plays 90 minutes, does fairly well out there. Lorenzo Insigne did not feature. I don't even think he was on. He was called to the bench for this one. Obviously, the more important matches would come a little bit later in the week. Right. So those matches were Sunday, November 15th, Italy and Poland in the Nations League, and Italy on a 20-match unbeaten run. Italy defeat Poland by a score of 2-0. Insigne plays 89 minutes in the match. He's subbed out for El Shaarawy. I think, in my estimation, he was the man of the match here.
Probably.
An assist to Berardi, which was just a great combination. But it wasn't just that. It was a lot of his off-the-ball movements, too. I think he was instrumental in causing the ball into the box for the first goal, which was a penalty. And for me, Insigne was the man of the match here. What are your thoughts on Insigne in the Poland match?
He is showing so much more confidence. I feel like if I have to say, what is the biggest thing that I'm taking away from Insigne as of lately, it's just his presence. Like, his presence is felt. It's felt on Napoli, and we're starting to feel it on Italy. On the Italian national team, or should I say Italia? On the Italian national team. And, they do the 4-3-3, so it is a formation that he is very familiar with. Obviously, the success that they had with it when Sarri was our coach at Napoli. So he's very comfortable, I feel like, where he is. And because of that, he's able to contribute so much to this team. And we're just seeing a really nice Italian national team overall. And it has a lot to do with, I feel like, the youth, as far as, I don't want to say like these guys are like in their prime. So I feel like the team it's ready to go. Most of these guys, Belotti, Immobile, Jorginho, Insigne, even Di Lorenzo doing, but these guys are playing, they're having fun, and they're attacking, and I think that plays into Insigne's style. So he's able to be comfortable. He's able to enjoy himself out there for sure. And he's able to contribute in major ways. And just because somebody's not scoring goal after goal after goal doesn't mean that they're not valuable. He is, we see when he was injured on Napoli, he comes back, the team changes for the better. Right. He comes on Italy, same thing. So he has certainly cemented his place to me in Italia, certainly in Napoli, and even though he may not be the team captain, he is certainly a leader on the field, without a doubt.
So, he is one of the vice captains, though. I believe the captain armband belongs to Chiellini right now, but he's been out. So they've given it to Florenzi whenever he's on the pitch. Otherwise, it is for Insigne. So, so that's cool to see. But my takeaway in the Poland match specifically was how he stepped up and really got in the face of Goralski, I think his name is, the dude who got the yellow in the 62nd for a really bad foul, and then in the 70th, another yellow.
Who is it, Barella? Is it against Barella?
What's that?
He got the foul against. He tripped up Barella or Bernadette.
Yeah, it was against Barella for the red, but or maybe for the yellow, but it was during the action of the yellow card. Insigne really got in his face and really took charge as a captain should, and tried to calm things down there with him, with the Polish player, and I think that we've seen that a lot in Napoli on the pitch. With Insigne as of late. Remember last year he was getting a lot of crap for not taking the captain's role. I don't want to say seriously, but not taking the captain's role to the level it has to be at. We were all kind of calling for Koulibaly to be the captain. We were all kind of saying that Insigne just doesn't seem like a captain. But he actually, since the whole issues that we had with Ancelotti and the whole problems with ADL last year. Since coming back from all that, I really feel like he's taken on that role. And in Italy, it seems like he's following up there too. But the assist to Berardi in the 83rd was just a beautiful assist. I mean, Insigne just finds the hole and slots it right to Berardi, who takes. Szczesny near side, which was really nice to see too. Szczesny gets scored on. But yeah, so Insigne is a pivotal part of this game, and then we go to Wednesday, which was yesterday, the 18th, and Italy played Bosnia, and a win for Italy would see them to the Final Four of the Nations League. And mind you, by the way, might I add, the win against Poland ensured Italy a top seed in World Cup qualifying, which is very, very nice. Get mentioned that was a 21 match unbeaten, and here comes 22. Italy beat Bosnia and Herzegovina 2-0, where I think Insigne again is the man of the match, and this is not Napoli bias because everybody on the pitch played really well. Italy players played very well. All 11, all the subs, they all gelled, they all synced. I'm not going to name names because everybody did wonderful, but my goodness, Lorenzo Insigne, man, with his vision and his touches, just amazing. Did you see the assist to the first goal?
It was like Pirlo-esque. It was just like, woo, like a nice, almost like a little bender to the middle. And I mean, I'm surprised that he didn't have more, but it was just nice to see. It was like a soft touch that just led to this goal. Was that no? Was that the one where
that was the Belotti goal. So let me paint this, because never mind just the pass. How about how Locatelli loses the ball in like the Bosnia half, and all kind of trickles out, and Insigne right behind Locatelli, picks right up from it and takes it down, and is not even like no one on him, know. It takes it down that left hand side, and then just kind of finds Belotti with just a soft right foot, and Belotti's connection to it was just superb. I mean, what a setup, what a goal. I urge everybody to go on their ESPN app, because I'm assuming everybody has ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
Look up the Italy highlights and look at this first goal. A magical touch. But then I'm sorry, go ahead, Ralphie, go ahead.
No. Go. Please continue. I wasn't saying anything.
After that, okay, in the 38th minute, right, on a really long ball from, I think it was Florenzi. I'm trying to see over here who it was. 18. No, it was Barella. So this long ball from Barella, changing fields,
Right.
Find Insigne, and just the first touch from Insigne's right foot to move past the defender, and then Insigne takes his world-renowned shot, and it skims up. I didn't even realize that it skimmed the post until this morning.
It's right there.
What a goal that would have been, but what a play it is anyway. That first touch from Insigne after that long ball from Barella was just magical. Shout out to Barella too. Barella's going to be something else. He really is.
No, for real. It was just a great first touch. I mean, Barella having the vision to see, Lorenzo kind of running up the side, and then just this beautiful long cross that hits him right in the feet. He runs up, he takes the shot, and like you said, just skims it. Had the goalie outstretched, and like, man, I know he really wanted it. He was really looking for like a goal. I wish Insigne got it, but nonetheless, still impresses, and it's still great to watch. Just to see Italy be able to do that right now.
Right.
It's wonderful, but
something also that doesn't really get that would get overlooked is the second goal for Italy. While Insigne wasn't directly part of this goal, he makes a run in between Locatelli and the defender to leave Locatelli open enough to find Berardi for the second goal. And just the off the ball decision to go between Locatelli and the defender from Insigne, another masterful move. And I really think that while Belotti gets a couple goals, Berardi gets a couple goals, the 4-0 win against Estonia, the fact that Italy are unbeaten in 22 now and are looking really primed to like impress in the Euros. I think the story of this particular week is Insigne on the national team and how arguably he is the best Italian player on the pitch right now. There's not much question about that in my estimation. What about you, Ralph? What do you think?
Oh yeah, I don't want to sound biased either, but overall, again, the things that he contributes, like you said, off the ball, the leadership, the playmaking, the assist. Sometimes it's not an assist, but it's like especially for your FIFA lovers out there, it's the pass to assist stat that you get. Right. Those things go so unnoticed. Or like you said, when he's between a defender and he is basically causing trouble for these defenders and allowing space for his teammates to make, giving them time to make a decision or that nice crispy pass. These things go unnoticed sometimes, to maybe the untrained eye, and is he the best out there? I think as of right now, probably, yeah, and I don't, I try to say that as unbiased as possible, but, you got to ask yourself, when this person's not on the field, do you miss him? Does the team lack something? Does he... when you put him on the field, does the team all of a sudden jump higher in quality? And you start checking off all those boxes when it comes down to Insigne. So it's like, yeah, he is one of the better guys out there, and rightfully so. He didn't just become that. He worked his way there. And there was times that, you remember the whole, who they played that time when he was on the bench and De Rossi.
Oh, that was Sweden in the World Cup qualifier where Ventura wanted to put De Rossi in as a final substitution, and De Rossi's like, we need goals. What are you going to put me in for? Insigne's in here, he pointing to Insigne saying he needs to go in. Why are you trying to put me in? Not that De Rossi wouldn't want to suit up and get on the field and try to give it his everything, but what made sense was Italy needed a goal, and
exactly.
It would have come from Lorenzo Insigne more than it would have from De Rossi.
From De Rossi, right.
Yeah, the respect that De Rossi gave to Insigne that day was just amazing. But, also, we're talking about this round of fixtures. Obviously, the last round of fixtures, Napoli players weren't, chosen for their national teams because of their isolation situation. So nobody played last time around. But in September, I'm going to mention really quick that Insigne had the assist to Stefano Sensi to come back from a 1-0 deficit on Bosnia, and they drew that match 1-1 because of Insigne. And then the match a few days later against the Netherlands, where he was involved in that sort of like back pass in the air to, and I forgot exactly who it was, but it was the goal that Barella scored with his head. I think it might have been. Of course, now that I refresh, an ad comes up. But Insigne was involved in that play to the goal as well. And for me,
what was the score
that was a 1-0 against the Netherlands in the Nations.
That's another September around there, right? Yeah.
It was in September, right. Yeah. And it was. I remember everybody was impressed with the goal. Insigne had a couple of shots there, and it was just an incredible goal. I think everybody would remember it if they, again, go to the ESPN app and you can see. The ball was to, I'm just checking right now. So Barella scored the goal with his head. Insigne flicks the ball past out. Oh, it's to Immobile. Immobile had the ball and chested it down, took another touch, passes it, lobs it right into Barella, but it was the ball that he received from Insigne that was just amazing. So, listen, we're a Napoli podcast, we're Napoli biased, yes, but I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that Insigne has been the best player for Italy over the last few months for sure, and I think they really have a great chance of doing a lot of great things with Insigne leading the way. I don't remember who it was, but someone said that Italy what they need is that number 9 who's going to score tons of goals for them, and then they'll be the complete package. But if you ask me, it's 25 different goal scorers in this 22 unbeaten run, and you're getting it from every which way.
Yeah.
Do you really need that with a guy like Insigne, with Barella, with Belotti scoring, with Berardi there, with Locatelli there, with possibly Zaniolo coming back from injury, with the defense doing their thing? Do you really need that out and out striker like Immobile to really turn it on, or do you think that Italy might have a chance to do something well with what they have now?
Well, would it hurt to have Immobile on there, right?
Well, yeah, if you ask me, Immobile is going to be there, but without question, he'll be there. But do we need to have Immobile score 6? Because I think it was in the Poland match. If Immobile scores 6 goals in the Euros, does Italy win the Euro? And someone and the other commentator said yes, they have a real good shot to doing that if Immobile can score. But honestly, this whole team can score from anywhere.
Yeah,
and a lot of it has to do with Insigne's playmaking.
Certainly. And that's what, every time we had a real great Italia team, the team had a great playmaker, right? And when it comes down to nationals, Italy is not a squad that only relies on one guy. We're not like, it's not like, like Portugal. That it's like without Ronaldo, probably they won't be as good. Italy, you see, without their top striker, can still come in and win games. You know what I mean? The fact that so many people are contributing, to me, is a testament of the skill that all these players have, especially when they're together. And considering the last few disaster World Cup campaigns we had, what we saw in Africa, and then what we, then not qualifying or not finishing the group stages, I think one thing that you do want to see is a complete Italian team, is guys who all can do the job, because there's no reason not to, man. This is Italia. This is they're the 4 World Cups, second most in the world. That's like, who else, aside from Brazil, nobody even comes close. Like,
it's usually expected. It's usually expected that Italy do something in a tournament, do well in a tournament. It is.
Right, and that just doesn't come from one player, especially at a World Cup level. It comes from a team. And maybe with the exception of Maradona, but we'll talk about that later. But
we're gonna move on from here. Just to mention, Di Lorenzo played in the 89th. He came in the 89th minute of the Poland match for Florenzi, so not too much to talk about there. Zielinski came in on the 46th minute against Italy, and Milik in the 74th minute. It was a nice little Jorginho, Insigne, and Zielinski moment that they shared that was shown around social media. You got to see it. Also, shout out to Jorginho, who scored the penalty kick, an ex-Napoli player. We have to mention him. Right, and then in the Di Lorenzo, in the Bosnia match, Di Lorenzo came in the 40th for Florenzi, so he played this whole second half. Yes. And like I said again, Milik did not feature. So leading that into the Poland fixtures, Wednesday the 11th, Poland played the Ukraine, and Milik played in 62 minutes of that, was subbed off, and in the 64th, his replacement scores a goal for 2-0, which Marco and I, Kubani, found pretty funny in our last episode on the fact that Milik played all those minutes and didn't get a goal, but Piontek did, which I found pretty funny too. Zielinski started in that match, was taken out in the 46th, so he only played the first half. And then Sunday match versus Italy, we just mentioned, and then on Wednesday the 18th, Poland had to play the Netherlands, which both teams were still in the running for the Final Four of the Nations League, but Italy's win canceled everything out. But Poland took an early lead with Zielinski starting in that match, being subbed off in the 71st minute. Milik did not play in that one. Poland, like I said, took the lead in the 5th minute, but then Holland comes back to score 2 with 13 minutes left. Not too much to note there as well. Zielinski's healthy and, playing decent, but nothing really to note. And I think the important thing there is that Zielinski comes back to Naples, in better match shape than he was right before when he had COVID and was out with that. So Italy, like I said, win that group and advance to the Nations League semifinals. Anything you want to add to Zielinski?
To Zielinski, against the Italy-Poland game, he was subbed in a little bit later into the second half, and Poland was looking kind of, I don't know, maybe flat is the right word, but as soon as Zielinski came on the field, I believe there was another sub with him. Poland looked a little bit better, right? I mean, they were looking a little bit more aggressive, and they had a little bit more presence in the midfield. So I just want to shout out Zielinski, in that respect, and even the announcers were saying how Poland looked different
in the second half,
right? In the second half, as soon as Zielinski came on. So, in my eyes, between Lewandowski and Zielinski, I think those are the two top Polish players, honestly, and we got one of them. As far as Milik goes, he made his bed, so sleep in it now. You could have gone we had a lot of teams with interest, and you wanted to get cute, and now now it's coming back to haunt you. So I don't have no empathy for him. It's just like you made this.
Right, Ralph, the gun to the head. Where does Milik go in January? Because he's not staying with us. He's going to leave. We're going to get something for him. Where do you think he goes?
Well, I read reports today that Ajax is possibly re-interested in bringing him back. That was the latest. Latest news that I read about that today.
Either that swap deal, or they want to buy him. What's going on?
I think they're trying to buy him straight out. I think it was like a $20 million deal or something like that. Okay. I'll take that.
I'll take anything, honestly. I was seeing possibly to Juve for Bernardeschi or to Inter for Eriksson. Honestly, at this point, it's an addition to what we have, and I'd take anything for him. Money, player, doesn't matter. Not that I rate Bernardeschi very well, and Eriksson's not doing too well with Inter, so it doesn't really matter because I just as long as we can get something for Milik, I'd be happy. That's fine.
I don't think he goes to Juve though. I don't know. I doubt it.
I don't think Juve really want him, to be honest.
I don't think he really want him. I don't even know where that came from. I think it was a Saudi thing. If I'm not mistaken. It was more of a Saudi thing. But as soon as Pirlo came on, those talks just went away. So, I don't think he goes to Juve at all. I think he leaves Italy.
Moving
Personally.
on, we're going to talk about Belgium and Dries Mertens with Belgium. On the 11th, Belgium played Switzerland in a friendly. Mertens did not play, was not on the bench. So on the 15th, Belgium plays England in the Nations League, and Belgium will eliminate England from the Nations League, a team that was in the Final Four in the last round, the last go-around of the Nations League. But the 2-0 goal came from a Mertens free kick in the 24th minute. And interestingly enough, in this one, Mertens was the only substitution. Now, remember, you can make 5 substitutions in these COVID conditions, and manager Roberto Martinez only made 1, and it was Mertens for Payet. So thank you, Martinez, for taking Mertens out a little early so he could rest. Appreciate that.
Saving his legs,
The free kick against England, you could tell in his face he just was real excited about that. I think getting back to goal scoring for Belgium is big for him. He still can take those set pieces, Ralph.
He still can. I mean, he can do a lot. The biggest thing I'll take away, maybe again, is more the emotional status of Mertens, where before they left on international duty, man, I didn't see that usual smile that we come to see on Mertens' face, but he comes back with his national team, and I have a lot of fun watching Belgium team, man. I really do. With that trio of him, Lukaku, and how do you say his name? De Bruyne. They're fun to watch, man. They're really fun to watch, and how they connect with each other. And Mertens, whether he scores or he's the setup guy, because he had a lot of that. If there's one thing the one thing that I'll take away is that he can set up anybody. This guy has quite the vision, and he did, and he sets up Lukaku a whole lot. Or again, the pass to assist where he's the main right.
All didn't play. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also to note, running back to defense.
Oh yeah. I forgot to mention Insigne did a lot of that too yesterday.
Certainly.
Yesterday. I noticed that too. But yeah, you're right. Mertens running back to defense, helping the defense out. I think it's just a cultural thing in Naples to run back and help the defense out.
I mean, everybody helps. You got to be efficient in Napoli. We don't have that much money. Just kidding. But no, you're right. But and it's not only just running back in the midfield. I mean, he was deep. There was times that he was behind the defender. I'm like, whoa. He was 20 feet, 10 feet away from the goalie. So I'm talking about really getting back and helping his team on defense. And I was happy to see that, because to me that represents energy. It represents, that work ethic, which we all know he has. We all know he can do. He scored that lovely goal on the free kick. It's good. Again, like you said, it's good for their morale. It's good for their confidence. I feel like he, above all, needed it for some reason. And it's not to knock him, but there was just he needed a good home cooked meal. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like he needed to go back to Belgium. He needed to hang out with his boys. He needed to have a little fun. And I think he got that over the course of the week, because he was all smiles out there, and Belgium played well, man. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and you mentioned, him being all smiles. He did play the full 90. He got a yellow card in the 50th minute of the match yesterday against Denmark, but that was a win and you're in to the Final Four of the Nations League as well, and Belgium came away with a 4-2 victory. Dries Mertens having a lot of fun out there. So, again, it all really comes down to having a good showing and coming back to Napoli with a great attitude. Really quickly, we're going to chat about Spain and Fabian real quick.
Oh boy.
And then we're going to take a little break and come back. Spain would play against the Netherlands in a friendly 1-1. Fabian did not play, and that was on Wednesday the 11th. On Saturday the 14th, Spain would play Switzerland in the Nations League. Fabian would come out in the 56th minute for Alvaro Morata. Spain gets a late equalizer in that one, but the big news, the big news, was Tuesday night, November 17th, Spain would play against Germany in basically a win and you're into the next round of the Nations League. And Fabian initially did not start in this match. He would come in the 12th minute due to an injury to Canales. And, I mean, an impact is an understatement, to be quite honest with you, because Spain would end up winning this one 6-0. It's Germany's worst defeat in history, or by the largest margin in history. And Fabian would get 3 direct, and I say direct because he was involved in maybe, he was involved in another 2 of the goals, but he would get 3 assists in this one. Right. 2 of them being from corner kicks, and 1 being just a very smart ball into, and just honestly, you mentioned it off the air. Fabian played in sort of a different position than he plays in Napoli, and he delivered. Give me your thoughts on Fabian with Spain.
Well, if you're listening to this show and you're in the CNC group, you know my feelings towards Fabian. Raffa, you know my feelings towards Fabian Ruiz, and let's
just say we have some battles.
Let's just.
I realize the drawbacks and I realize the faults that he does have, but I'm more pro Fabian than Ralph is. That's for sure.
That's 100% for sure. But my mind has changed, and I want to say that was largely in part for you, Raffa, for your feedback to me, because there may be a point that I was a little harsh. But overall, I just wasn't. Let's just say I just felt on Napoli he was somewhat overrated, and I still think he has some work to do. But I also feel that he was played a little bit too far back, like in that 4-2-3-1 with Napoli, where he's kind of in the back. I really feel like we're wasting him back there. And when my opinion changed, when we spoke, Raffa, you and I was like, I literally went on and I rewatched the game, and for 90 minutes I stared at this guy, and I was like, and I figured it out. I was like, Fabian Ruiz is like a poor man's number 10. All right, Fabian Ruiz needs to be closer to the goal. He cannot. He's just running in circles in the backfield with these lateral passes. Dude, he needs to be up front, and we saw that in Spain. In fact, who was it against? He played in a 4-2-3-1. I think it was Switzerland or the Netherlands. He played.
It was Switzerland.
Yeah, it was against Switzerland. He played the number 10 role, and Spain lined up 4-2-3-1. So, like my assessment, was right on the money essentially. And then with Germany, because this is how I feel. Like, he has a good left leg. I know he can kick the ball, and I want him to kick more. I know he can pass the ball. He has a great through ball. And I think he has a great long ball. So after kind of reassessing Fabian Ruiz, this is what I came up with. That the guy can pass, he could shoot from outside the box, and he could cross. Therefore, let's move him up a little bit and give him a chance to be more on the play. Like, let's not have him run or have to decide what to do far back in the midfield. Let's put him a little bit closer to the goal, and make him a number 10. And we saw that in Spain. All right. He took a corner kick. Now, what I will say about Napoli, if I have to give them any big criticism, I'm just not fond of their set pieces and their ability to cross the ball. We just never capitalize on any of those situations ever. And I don't mean just now. I mean, almost since Mazzarri, I was like, man, we can never cross the ball.
No, you're right.
And I think Fabian can help fill that gap, especially on a corner kick, man. Like, Mertens, I think, took the last few corner kicks, and they were just not that good. Give it to another guy. Give the job to somebody else and see what they can do. So for Fabian, his ability to just give that one pass, to set up his striker, I would like to see more of that for Napoli, and I think we saw a lot of that when he played with Spain. And he was successful. So
right. Well, if anybody's performance in the past week in international play should raise an eyebrow to Gattuso, I think it's Fabian, and I think you're right. I mean, I was the first one to say, well, if Mertens can't play the number 10, or if he's got to sit, or we have to rotate, we can always put Zielinski on the number 10 because I think he'd do phenomenally there. And that doesn't change my perspective of that. But I do think that Fabian in a number 10 role that he's been playing in with Spain, not for nothing, but he played a similar role to that as well in the Spain under-21 nationals, and they won a tournament, and he had best player of the tournament. And
I think he goals too, right?
Exactly, and I'm not necessarily saying that where he plays now is a problem for me when him and Bakayoko are on the same page, because of the couple games that I've seen him and Bakayoko in sync together, I think Fabian's been pretty good. I mean, he has his moments, but maybe we try. Maybe we try it against Rijeka in the Europa League. Maybe we try it because I honestly, and we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about the impact that this has had on Napoli players for the upcoming weeks. But if we're talking about Fabian now, I might as well mention it. I think Milan, for the Milan match, we line up as a 4-3-3 without Victor Osimhen. Again, getting ahead of myself. But maybe we do put Fabian in that role. Maybe we do, maybe make Mertens our striker, which seems really ridiculous, but or Petagna, and put Fabian in that role. The problem is Napoli haven't practiced that much, together. So I think Gattuso, if he should take anything out of these internationals, is maybe we start training with Fabian in that role to see where training for the set pieces, like you said, training for the corner kicks, and training him as a number 10. And I think but that's the beauty of Napoli right now, is there's so many options. There's so many options that we can plug in and try, and that doesn't work for one game, we can continue and roll on.
Certainly.
But this performance for me, I had Insigne overall as one of the best performances of the national team break here, but I think I might have to change my mind, and we'll get to that later, where I pick the disappointments and the standouts. I might have to move Fabian up a bit. But Ralph, we're going to take just a little bit of a break right now, and we'll be back soon to talk about the rest of the players and a little special treat for everybody as well. So hang on, everybody. We'll be right back.
But there's Velotti. That's terrific. Italy at their brilliant best. Counter-attack led by Lorenzo Insigne. And Andrea Velotti with his 6th goal under Mancini scored for Rrahmani, and Italy in front. In from Berardi, now it's Insigne. Well, we've seen it turn in Belgium, and what about that for a take from Insigne? Deserved a goal. He's on fire at the moment, and how he... It is Mertens! Oh, it's fabulous! Dries Mertens is on home territory here in the city of Leuven. Grew up just 500 metres from this stadium. Said the stadium would have been full of friends and family had they been allowed. Well, he's celebrating anyway. What a strike!
And there was Ferran Torres again to score his 2nd of the game. Fabian Ruiz would play a big part in Spain's evening and was a part of that attack as well. Spain and Ferran Torres, who would pick up his hat-trick with just under 20 minutes to go. Fabian Ruiz with the assist again.
With that little warning, sends it to Victor Osimhen. Well, he's certainly like that. And Victor Osimhen is all smiles. There's a let-off for the Super Eagles at one end. As quick as a flash. At the other end, Victor Osimhen snaffling up another goal.
De aquí se la sacan correctamente. Araujo la tiene el segundo. Chooky. El Chooky tiene el segundo. ¡Gol!
All right, Tifosi, we're back. Again, I'm here with Ralph Bizarro, and we are now going to go ahead and touch on a little bit of Mario Rui with Portugal. Mario Rui played in a friendly on Wednesday. It was Andorra, friendly against Andorra. It was a 7 win. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that because Mario Rui did play a full 90. He got an assist to Paulinho in the 61st minute, and then he got an assist to Ronaldo in the 85th for 6-0. But, that's really the only match that he played in. He didn't play against France on Saturday in the 1-0 defeat to Portugal, to France, which knocked Portugal out and France into the Final Four. And then I think he got a couple of minutes against he got 71 minutes in a start against Croatia in the Nations League to round it up. Portugal winning that one 3-2. A little note there for Croatia, our ex Marko Rog played and got sent off in the 51st minute after 2 yellows. But Ralphie, what do you want to talk about with Mario Rui here? I mean, nice to see that he got 90 minutes in a friendly, 2 assists. But didn't really do anything for France when it counted. What do you feel about that?
I'm not sure what's going on now. Before the friendlies, we saw that Gattuso sent Rui and Gulam to the stands, right?
Yes.
And I couldn't help as far as when they played Croatia. What stood out to me was, even though they won, what stood out to me was he seemed as if he lacked some effort as far as defending his side of the field. Because it almost, if you see, I think it was the second goal, he kind of just stood there and just watched he stood there in the box, standing. And this is so unlike him, because typically you'll see him and maybe Lozano come down and double team that side, and they create this little wall there. He didn't seem as motivated as we kind of come to know Rui, right? I mean, and we haven't seen him lately as many minutes, and then he gets sent to the stands, and now, so I don't know. Is he tired? Is something going on? Is he having a personal problem? I don't know, but a bit underwhelming. As far as the Croatia game goes, but
I mean, we've not seen him feature as much as we did at the end of last season with Gattuso this season to start. So, there could be something there. Again, he sits on the bench with Gulam, like you mentioned, the game before the internationals. He comes out to the internationals and, like you said, I agree, looked a little lackadaisical in the defensive. But I mean, honestly, when we talk about Mario Rui with Napoli, we talk more about his offensive contribution than we do his defensive. And, he gets 2 assists in a friendly. It's like if you were to put him and Husai together, you'd have a perfect left back, because you get Rui's offensive prowess and Husai's defensive contributions. Mm-hmm. You get the perfect left back, so I mean, not too much to talk about. Portugal are out of the Nations League. The team that won the first ever Nations League, they are out of it. The Nations League looks like this: Italy, France, Belgium, and Spain. So those will be pretty cool. That doesn't resume again until October, because we do have friendlies in March, and then we have the
Euros, right?
Euro in the summer.
June,
and then we have to start World Cup qualifying, where we'll start late on that, because we'll play in October the Nations League semifinals and the finals. So that's in less than a year away. So we don't have to worry about that too much going forward. I will touch just a bit. I'm going to skim through everybody who played. We mentioned Husai for Albania. He was in as a sub in the 46th minute to an Albania Kosovo 2-1 Albania win friendly. last Wednesday, the 11th. Rrahmani also played a full 90 for Kosovo there. Albania 3-1 win. Husai plays the full 90 on Sunday, the 15th in the Nations League, and then contracts COVID-19, tests positive. He did not play in the match against Belarus, the 3-2 that sees Albania promoted to the Nations League B with the win. And another really cool note that I'm not sure you knew about this, Ralph, but the head coach of Albania, Eddie Rrah, former Napoli manager.
Oh, look at that.
So Eddie Rrah has, and Napoli actually came out and, congratulated Eddie Rrah to the Nations League B promotion, which is pretty cool.
Good for them.
Yes, very good for them. So congrats to Mr. Rrah. Always one of my favorites. I got to see him manage live in 2005, which was awesome. Yeah. 1-0 against Spal. Serie C. It was a Roberto Souza, Pampa Souza goal. And both us and Spal missed penalty kicks. Spal,
what year was that?
This was 2005, February 2005.
Wow.
Look it up. Napoli Spal 2005.
I will.
One of the 40,000 in attendance. That's a story for another day though, Ralph, because there's a whole lot of cool things that happen in leading up to that in my life. So we'll roll on. As we mentioned in our last episode, mine with Kubani, Elmas and North Macedonia qualify for their first ever international major tournament. And North Macedonia are in the Euro 2020. Pandev, an ex-Napoli player, gets the winner for that. It was a very touching moment.
Big shout out to Pandev, man. I love him.
Kung Fu Pandev.
Love that man. I love that man.
Yes, sir. And Elmas played the full 90. Elmas was also instrumental in a winner for North Macedonia. Played 85 minutes, got the assist for the winner against Estonia. But then Elmas, for some reason, returned back to Napoli after this match. I think they cited a little bit of muscle fatigue. He did practice yesterday, which is Wednesday the 18th, for anyone who's listening, and he's doing fine. He'll be okay for the match. If he were to come in against Milan, he'll be available. But just a precautionary, send back to Naples. But it would prove to be crucial because, to me, no Elmas, no party. Armenia would beat North Macedonia 1-0 and prevent North Macedonia from not being promoted to the Nations League B. They lose to Armenia and lose out of promotion. But what is most important is that Elmas came back early and is fine now.
Also played the number 10 role, I want to note.
Yes, sir, and flourished in that role. Another reason to be excited about the fact that we play a 4-2-3-1 because that number 10 could be occupied by like 3 or 4 players off the top of my head now. So yeah. We spoke about Kosovo and Rrahmani. Rrahmani has not seen a minute yet for Napoli, but he is the Kosovo captain and caught a lot of crap about missing the last round of internationals from his fans because of the isolation that Napoli were under, and it caused Kosovo to be eliminated from the playoff to go to Euro 2020. So he got a lot of crap for that. But anyway, he plays 90 minutes and gets a yellow in the 92nd minute of a Slovenia Nations League match 2-1 loss. And then Kosovo do win 1-0, but Rrahmani comes out of the match in the 20th minute injured. Kosovo do stay in Nations League C. Rrahmani, another list added to the list of injuries in this round of international breaks. And then last but not least, Slovakia, Lobotka, and our former, captain, hero, leading goal scorer, former Marek Hamsik. They qualify also for the Euros on Wednesday the 11th against North Ireland in a 2-1 extra time victory. Lobotka plays 65 minutes of that. Hamsik comes out in the 105th minute. Slovakia get the win, though, on an extra time goal. And joy for Lobotka, joy for Hamsik, which is, like I said, important when it comes to things. When it comes to players coming back, they're on a high. Slovakia qualifies for the major tournament as well. In the Nations League on Sunday, however, they do beat Scotland 1-0, another team that qualified for Euro that week. Hamsik comes out in the 86th. Lobotka comes in the 61st. Not too much to note, but they do lose 2-0 against the Czech Republic on the 18th, which was yesterday. Hamsik plays a full 90. Lobotka gets the start, but comes out in the 62nd. But Slovakia are relegated to the Nations League C. So, bit of a, I think if you ask me, the players are a little happier that they qualified for Euro and playing in the Nations League C, So it was an overall good week for European players that represent Napoli or used to represent Napoli. You want to add anything to any of what I just rambled about, Ralph, before we go on?
Well, we mentioned Elmas playing the number 10, and I'll add that Lobotka, I think, and this is really important to me. Lobotka playing kind of like a sweeper role almost, as like a far back.
So further back than what Gattuso had him.
Yeah,
in a couple of matches while. Yeah.
I think it was against. Was it AZ or the game after?
After. It was. I believe it was against Sociedad.
We used them as the number 10. So no, it wasn't that one then. It was against the AZ because he was one of the. I think he was one of the turnovers in there. Played a great defensive game. I really like him as. I believe it was the AZ game, and he stood out to me as far as a defensive midfielder that I thought came in and did the job. I know we got Bakayoko now, so he took away a little bit of shine. But don't forget about Lobotka. Now, don't be too hard on him about what happened with him in the number 10 role. He didn't belong there. That's not his fault.
Absolutely not.
His fault. He didn't belong there. He was put there. It was a test, but he does excel on a defensive role. So he helped Slovakia with it, and I believe he can help Napoli. So I guess the one thing to take away from these other teams, as far as our players in these international roles, is that the role that they are playing, and I hope Gattuso can see that, and maybe that can help him make some from here on out as to like where he's going to position some of these players. Because once he does that, and we figure out who is where, I think we're going to see a better Napoli. But shout out to those guys, and and finding success and things like that with their national teams. So
absolutely. So let's roll to South America really quick, because we have Colombia and Ospina, our starting goalkeeper. Made the start for Colombia against Uruguay, and now these guys are doing World Cup qualifying. They're 4 matches in overall. Friday the 13th was indeed Friday the 13th for Ospina. 3 bombs put away against him. One of them being, our very own Edinson Cavani, our alum. And also to mention Duvan Zapata, goal 90 for Colombia. But let's talk about Ospina. 3 goals given up. Big loss to Uruguay. I mean, Uruguay are no slouch in South American football. Let's put it that way. But I mean, Ospina getting lit up 3-0. I didn't see any of the highlights of it, so I can't tell you whether they were defensive or whether it was his fault or what have you. But the fact remains that they lost 3-0 with him in net. But then what happens is, and I mentioned adding to the list of injuries, actually Rrahmani was one of a list that was already growing because Ospina ends up getting injured either in that match, in training, or what have you. I think the Colombia staff came out and said that this was an injury that stemmed from a knock that he took against Bologna. If you remember, he was knocked around a bit against Bologna. Yeah. They decided not to play Ospina He didn't come back to Naples. He did sit on the bench, but they started their second string keeper, and Ecuador kicked the shit out of them 6-1. And like I said, he didn't play. Duvan did play another full 90, just touching on ex-Napoli players that are playing against teams that have Napoli players in them. And Colombia sits 7th in World Cup qualifying with 4 points from 4 matches. So doesn't look too good right now for them. But like I said, Ospina gets put on the injured list. So that doesn't seem to bode well for Napoli. Whenever Napoli players get injured, doesn't matter who it is, you kind of, you're so excited about these internationals, and then it kind of just takes the wind right out of your sails.
Right. It's a little punch in the gut and gets you all nervous.
Sure. Not that we don't have a quality backup.
I mean,
sure Medet would do just fine, but if we're on a roll, such a roll that we are, the 4 goals that we've given up on the pitch, all but one were given up by Medet. Ospina has only given up 1 on the pitch so far. So you kind of get a little bit worried about stuff like that. But then at the same time, it's not like Medet is a slouch. Medet versus Donnarumma on Sunday would be wonderful to see.
Oh, it's going to be lovely to watch, man. And I'm fully confident in Meret. So I want Ospina to get better. I like Ospina. I know that there was a bit of controversy between Gattuso and his selection between Ospina and Meret and about the whole ball handling. But I'm fine with either of those guys in the net. And we saw what he did against Bologna. Him and Hisao practically saved the game.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And as far as his performance in Colombia, I'm not too enthusiastic about Colombia's defense. I know they got Cuadrado there, and while they have a great front line,
Cuadrado's more of an offensive player, though.
Yeah, he's a guy that he wants to move forward. I don't think even if he wants to defend, I feel like he's more of an attacking midfielder, if anything, But with that front line, it's way different than that back line. I don't even know those guys. But
it's definitely not the Napoli defense, to be honest with you.
Certainly not.
You can't really fault him too much either. A lot of times when a goal is scored, it's not the netminder's fault. But rolling on really quickly, to Senegal. We'll go to Africa. Senegal, this is the African Cup of Nations qualifying at this point. And we don't get a lot of information from these matches when we look them up. So not too much to report. I mean, Senegal defeat Guinea-Bissau, which they actually played, I guess, I don't know how. I guess this is group play, but I guess every African team played against each other twice. In this one, maybe that's their way of controlling, too much, maybe not having a lot of travel go, from one country to another, Nigeria playing Sierra Leone twice, but Senegal would beat Guinea-Bissau 2-0 on Wednesday the 11th. Koulibaly plays the full 90 and gets a yellow in the 80th. And then on the 15th, Sunday the 15th, the return match in Guinea-Bissau, 1-0 for Senegal. Koulibaly again, the full 90, gets another yellow in the 43rd. These are his only 2 yellows in group stage so far. They're Senegal are top of Group I in African Cup of Nations qualification with 12 points from 4, so they got all wins. So I'm not quite sure how the yellows, collect in the African Cup of Nations. If somebody can help us out, that'd be great. Get at us at Far From Vesuvius on Twitter and let us know. But it seems to me Koulibaly with 2 yellows is on the verge of being diffidato from the Senegal team, which is only better news for us because he doesn't get, let's say he's diffidato for the next match. He might travel because there's 2 matches, but there'll at least be 1 match he doesn't play in, which I'm quite okay with.
Cool with that.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I'm assuming Koulibaly did Koulibaly things in these matches, both shutouts. Koulibaly, the best defender in the world in our estimation, definitely top 3 in everyone.
I think he had an assist. Or at least, again, one of those pass to assists.
Build up.
Kind of like, he had a nice, long ball, I believe, to the left winger, and which contributed to a goal.
Doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, doesn't surprise me at all. No. We're going to roll on because here, in the last match, in the last nation that we are going to talk about here, is where our injury list began. Friday the 13th, once again, one of those Friday the 13th days.
What a year.
Yeah, it was certainly a Friday the 13th for Nigeria as a whole. Nigeria would host Sierra Leone and go up 4-0. And Victor Osimhen started in the match and would score the 2-0 in the 21st minute. And let's talk about that goal before we get into what happened after. Describe the goal for us, Ralph.
It was like he got the ball from a long pass from one of the midfielders, and he just, that stride, it's just a joy to watch. And he accepts the ball, and he's running at such a pace that you can see that the defender has to put on the jets to keep up. But it was too late because Victor was kind of in front of him, and by the time the dude turned on his jets, he lost his footing, hit the floor. Victor scores the goal, and that was it as far as the goal goes. So
right foot slots it right past the keeper for the 2-0. Victor happy smiles. Yeah, effortless. Seemed effortless. Seemed like the Victor that has been playing with Napoli for the past, month and a half, and just very happy for him. But then, not too long before the end of the match, in which a match that Nigeria would blow a 4-0 lead on, to be honest with you, and they would end up drawing 4-4 in this one, which is insane.
Their defense gave up practically total. I was watching some of the highlights, and it was just
being up 4-0, you tend to drop a little bit of effort, and then Sierra Leone took quite exception to that and took advantage of it and ended up drawing, like I said, 4-4. But the big news in this one was Victor Osimhen goes down and ends up separating his shoulder. There was a lot of talk about, did he break his wrist? It was definitely an arm thing. And it was confirmed later that Osimhen will have separated his shoulder and was doubtful for a while against Milan, and once the separation was confirmed, it was confirmed that he will not play against Milan, and that's probably the biggest blow of all in this entire ordeal. Going into a match against Milan for first place, not having Victor Osimhen with us is a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. I guess I can speak it now because we're here, but this was the one I was afraid of. And, I've made prior arguments about Gattuso rotating, make sure we get Patenya up to speed. It was because of this. And I didn't say it out loud because I didn't want to put it in the air, but I'm like, what happens if this guy needs a week off, he gets hurt, or he gets a little tweak here and there, and then it happens. And I'm like, see, this is why, with this depth, we got to make sure everybody is ready to go. Now, thankfully, I read some reports today that they were almost considering to have him start for Milan. But I think Gattuso is playing it safe and says, no, you're sitting out, which I'm fine with that. That's cool. I know it's a big game, but I don't want this guy to get injured any further. So give him a break.
We have to think of the long-term effects and situation here too. You know what I mean? Because like I've beaten over the head like a dead horse. This week is going to be very important for Napoli. We got Milan at home, then we have Rijeka at home, and then we have Roma at home. So, the fact that we don't have to travel is a plus. But, if we're going to need Osimhen in one of these matches, I would at least like to have him for the Roma match. Don't forget, the quote unquote, and I don't like to say this, and I'm going to touch wood right now, the Scudetto run that we're looking to be on. If we were to lose or drop points to Milan this time around, I'd much rather be able to pick up from there and win in the Europa League and then win against Roma, creeping up behind us too. They've played amazing football.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be tough too. So if anything, if Victor needs to take a little rest, now is the time to do it. I also read similar reports. I think that Gattuso is still considering putting him on the bench and if he needs to come in for a couple minutes at the end, he's considering possibly doing it. But I mean, let's use this situation to lead into our injuries and sort of outages, so to speak, for the upcoming week and future. So Rrahmani is out with an injury that doesn't seem to be serious, but I don't think he'll be suiting up for the Milan match. And then I did just read that Ospina will be okay and looks like, and I just read this 2 seconds ago, looks like he will be okay for the Milan match and will get the start against Milan. It was just he needed a little bit of a break. He needed a little bit of rest, and it looks like it's okay. The other injury that comes to mind is, I'm sorry, it's not an injury. It's the COVID-19. Husai is still in Albania and will remain there in isolation until his test results come back negative. And when that happens, he'll come back. So we're looking at a Mario Rui left back situation, which,
I mean, we got Gulam. He can be.
We also do have Gulam, who has been playing who's been coming in off the bench under Gattuso for a while. So it does, Husai, just for me, like, it's so weird to think, Ralph, that in 2020 we're upset that we're not gonna have Husai on our at our disposal. Just a couple of months ago, we were all destroying this guy, and he really has been a great member of the team and a great option for us to have. But Husai is out as well. So these things happen, injuries and situations happen. Just to kind of close on my thoughts on all this, I love the international breaks, but the COVID situation, we really could have done without this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely complicates things for sure. Sure this year.
Right. So that's basically what we're looking at here. As far as injuries go, leading into the break. Do you have anything else to add about the fact that we have a few injuries? And a few, also I should probably mention that he wasn't playing in any national team matches, but Bakayoko ended up with a fever,
which he's better. He was back on training today.
Now too. Yeah. Yep, he's back training, but to have a fever, COVID.
Yeah, nowadays
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. If I have a scratchy throat right now, that's it. I'm paranoid. I'm like,
I had allergies for half a day one day, and I was cutting hair while I was sitting, and I was like, oh, this cannot be good. I just started feeling it, and I was like, what's going on here? Runny nose, scratchy throat,
man.
It turned out to be allergies. It was half the days, thank God. Yeah. But I mean, it's crazy.
It's scary, man.
It's very scary, very scary. We definitely could have done without these European fixtures or these international fixtures this time around. But you know what? The fact is,
like the friendly ones. I mean, come on.
So the friendly ones anyway. I mean, when have you ever seen 3 fixtures in an international break? It's unprecedented. So them to throw these meaningless friendlies in with these Nations League matches, I always thought the point of having the Nations League was to get rid of friendlies. But listen, FIFA will FIFA. There's nothing that we could do about it.
Yeah, I think they're trying to recoup a little bit of their losses this year. Not to sound conspiracy theorist, but everyone's struggling right now. They need a little bit of money. They got to make it up somehow.
So for me, I'm gonna hit you with some standouts and some flops. For me, the flops were Lobotka, Rrahmani, Ospina, and Milik. I mean, Rrahmani got injured, but there was not much to talk about. Ospina with the 3 goals. Milik is just trash, and we didn't really hear too much from Lobotka. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw those 4 in there. What do you think? What do you think of my assessments? Do you have another person to add?
I'll stick with it. I mean, I didn't see so much to Lobotka, but if he's playing a defensive mid, I'm not surprised that he's going to be on the highlight reel. But yeah, I'm with you, man. And Ospina, I won't give him such a hard time, considering what I said about Colombia's defense, but
Right.
certainly for me. But from what I know Rui had that thing, but when I saw what he did against Croatia, I'm like, dude, step it up, man. Come on, like, I don't know, but he always seems a little like that on Portugal for some reason. I don't know. I've seen that in the past with him. So, but I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I'll agree with the host here.
So I'm gonna rank my standouts from 4 to 1, and I'm gonna start. Number 4 for me was Mertens. He got the goal on the free kick. He just seemed like he was flowing really well, playing really well. Looks like he's one of Belgium's top players, if not the top player. I'm going to go 4 Mertens. Then I'm going to go 3 Elmas.
Okay.
Even though he stood out in the game that qualified them for the Euros and in that One Nations League game, I think I'm going to go him number 3. And then, man, I'm telling you right now, this was tough for me to distinguish. I have 2 and 1, Fabian 2, Insigne 1. But that Spain-Germany performance for me really, really wanted me to put Fabian 1, but Insigne had an overall great week. So I'd be remiss to not put Insigne number 1, Fabian number 2. But I think those are my 4. Mertens, Elmas, Fabian, Insigne for me.
I like it. I will choose. I'm going to choose number 4, Ruiz. And listen,
yeah,
the fact that it's on my top 4. Don't tell him I said that. All right, don't tell him I said.
Listen, our listeners. Ralph is very new to our listeners. I don't think anyone really understands the disdain that this guy has for Fabian. It's the same sort of disdain that I had for Husay last season. He's not a big fan. He's not a big fan. So for him to be on a standout list that Ralph puts out is something.
Yeah, and I'm going to give it to him because he was put in a position that I said he should be in, and he succeeded. So maybe it's a little bit of validating my opinion, but it's also I don't want people to think that I'm being harsh just to be harsh. I'm being critical, and I want to be the sheriff of the town here, and if they're gonna inflate this guy's head, he better produce. And I think he did that for Spain, and I think part of that reason was because he's front. So Ruiz goes on my number 4.
Gattuso needs to watch out for Ralph Pizarro, man.
Yeah, he does, man.
You know where to put him.
Bro. Yeah, I'm unemployed right now, so Gattuso, I'm looking for work. But my number 3, I'm gonna give it to Victor. Because he's my dude, man, and we need, aside from the goal, he is such an unselfish player. He had a few these backward headers that he did. And he just makes so much space and helps his team out so much. And he did that. He's doing that for Napoli. He's doing it for Nigeria. He does have some attitude sometimes, but he is a humble dude, and I think he is a team player, and that's why I love him. So I'm going to give him my number 3. However, I'd like to see him a little bit more of a killer instinct. He had 1 goal. I think he should have 2 or 3. You know what I mean? I want him to really start taking a little bit more control, especially when his back is to the net, turning around, shooting a little bit more. I want to see a little bit more from him. My number 2 is going to Mertens because I really enjoy watching those 3 guys play together, man. And he sets up he's not just going for goals. He's setting up his boy. Lukaku. Lukaku had an awesome just play, man, and Mertens was the guy who had the ball right before Lukaku. So he's going to go to my number 3, and I'm just happy to see the guy smiling again because I feel like he was having some issues over the past couple weeks. And then obviously Insigne, number one, because to me he has the biggest growth. And when he was injured, I missed him. The team missed him. And now that he's, thankfully he's recovered, and he what he is doing for Napoli, he is doing for the Italian national team. And that growth, I want everybody to see it. I want to validate it. He's a difference maker, and I think that's why he's number 1, because his presence now is felt.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that the dip in form that Napoli went through, the loss to AZ, the loss to Sassuolo, the wins that we grinded out but didn't really look too great in, you can just tell that Insigne and someone like Zielinski being out with COVID, those two players especially being off the field for Napoli are very instrumental in a dip in form that Napoli went through, and once Insigne comes back on, the Bologna match, and does what he does, it just, for me, because Napoli kind of spanked Bologna around for 75 minutes or so, and I think Insigne had a lot to do with that too. So yeah, there's no doubt that we share the same sentiment that Insigne was the player of this international break. And that's pretty much going to do it. We are going to touch on a new little, like a little feature that I want to add onto here is I'm going to be sort of showcasing an ex-player or an ex-coach or someone that had to do something with Napoli that made a significant impact in their national teams. And where else do we begin, Ralph, with other than that man, El Pibe d'Oro, Dios himself, Diego Armando Maradona, Dios.
Yeah.
And, so Maradona came to Napoli in 1984. In 1978, he had already won the FIFA Youth World Cup under 20. And with such promise in 84, he took Napoli to lengths that, we all know that he did.
I haven't been matched since, personally.
Haven't been matched since. That's absolutely right. And, Frank Sidekick and I are doing the did just record part 1, talked about how he won the UEFA Cup and what the UEFA Cup meant back then. But before all of the Napoli titles, he won the World Cup pretty much single-handedly with Argentina. You have that famous match against England in Mexico, where the first goal was the hand of God, but the second goal was named by FIFA the greatest goal of the century. All happened in one match, and the ball that the goal that Maradona took from the midfield and just ate all the ankles of the English, and England to this day can't stand Maradona because of that. That's just the way it is. Except Frank's Sidekick and Darren Gardner. Those are the only two Englishmen that I know of that absolutely adore Maradona. I'm sure there are other Napoli English fans out there, but the two off the top of my head are them.
Shout out to Frank, by the way. I really enjoyed both of you guys on the Maradona Chronicles, by the way.
Thank you very much. We're not done yet. We're rolling on.
Yeah.
We're rolling on.
Yeah.
So Maradona wins the World Cup in 1986, and then what happens after that, Ralph? He comes back to Napoli. He wins the 86-87 Scudetto. They come very, very close to doing a double. Then they win the UEFA Cup in 89, and then in 90 they win their second Scudetto. They win a Super Cup in 1990 as well against Juventus. So, I feel like that tournament kickstarted Maradona becoming a legend at Napoli as well, cementing his legacy with the World Cup, and then just adding the fact that he took a team like Napoli, which was a relative nobody in the world of football, and brought them to the heights that they went to and still are at now because of it. Maradona would go on to the 90 World Cup in Italy and lose in the final to Germany, but beat Italy in Naples in the semifinal on penalty kicks. And that was a pretty famous, occurrence to where he'd call on Napoli to not cheer for Italy because 364 days of the year, Italy don't consider Napoli a part of Italy. And, those remarks were famous. But he would lose that final. And then he would come back in 94 after all the drug stuff that happened with him. He'd come back to the team in USA 94. He'd get a really magnificent goal for Argentina against Greece. And then that celebration of that goal would lead to a drug test after the next match. And they would find traces of performance enhancement or cocaine or whatever have you, whatever the drug was that Maradona claims that he didn't know about. But that would end his international career. But, listen, the greatest of all time, regardless, Maradona playing like when you think about who would be the greatest player to ever play for Napoli out in the international level as well, has to be Diego Maradona, number one. Everybody else is a far, far, far behind him.
Yeah. I mean, this is the Messi of the 80s. You know what I mean? This is the highest, at the time, the biggest, I believe is the biggest transfer fee
in the world, yes,
in the whole world, and it was in little old Napoli nonetheless. This is a guy who took the bull by the horns for his club team and his national team and won trophies. I mean, he LeBron James the world and Serie A, and a guy who to this day is revered as a demigod in Napoli and will always will be. And it's an example that I think that every striker, past and present, who plays for Napoli needs to understand. I read this article once. It's like, I remember it was speaking of Cavani, and it was and the author of the article said Cavani needs to understand that nobody has done what Maradona did since. And and as much as we revere these guys, nobody goes above Diego. But just to see, I really, really loved, and despite all the problems, I'm not going to hold anybody up. I'm not going to hold anybody's, discrepancies in the 80s, because it was a wild time in any sport. But to me, for one person, when he said Napoli contro tutti, he really understood what it is that the Napolitan, not just as a soccer team, but almost as a citizen, was going through, to embrace that. And I think he understood, because he wasn't getting love in Barcelona. He said it, right? I mean, I know you even cited it in the Maradona Chronicles. He wasn't getting that love. And I think he understood. It's like, why don't you love us? We're here. We love you. We love soccer. Exactly. Why don't you love us? He's like, you know what? Hold my beer. I got this. You know what I mean? And he did that. And I know, with the hand of God thing, I know that's why a lot of the English don't like him. But right after that, he pulls that goal and cuts up the whole team. So, I mean, like, what do you want? You know what I mean? Whether he hands the ball or whether he just takes the ball and goes from end to end and scores, don't matter. You weren't going to win. Not with that guy on the field.
I would say two of the most iconic goals, if not one and two most iconic goals ever, in one match. And in that tournament, he wins the World Cup. And to be honest with you, that's the benchmark right there. Maradona, to me, is the benchmark. You have Pelé in Brazil with his 3 World Cups, but really, in his club, and obviously he's a legend and no one will take anything away from that. But when it comes to his club, he played with Santos and that was it. That's the benchmark, is Maradona. When you talk about Ronaldo and Messi being the greatest players of all time, you can't really compare them to Maradona, because of the fact that Maradona took an Argentina that, wasn't really that, great.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And won the World Cup pretty much single-handedly. I mean, you got Ronaldo, who finally won trophies in Europe with the Euro 2016, and then the Nations League in 2018. But then you have, in 2019. But then you have, Messi, who's won, a runner-up in a World Cup. 3 Copa Americas, FIFA Under-20 World Cup, which Maradona did as well. But at the same time, he has not been able to do it at the grandest stage, which is the World Cup. So that will always be the reason why Diego Maradona is number one in my book. And, obviously he's the best Napoli player of all time, the best player of all time. And so he gets our first mention as a international Napoli legend.
Absolutely.
Diego Maradona.
And there's not one Napoli Don out there that disagrees with you, Raffa. Not one.
Can't be.
Not one. Not one.
Can't be. And if there are, I need to speak to them. We need.
Yeah, they need to. Right. They need to have a sit down. Okay.
Ralph, this was awesome. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you joining us for this little experiment. We will definitely be back with another edition of this when the international breaks come back. And look for us at Far From Vesuvius on Twitter, Far From Vesuvius podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Ralph, why don't you mention where we can find you on social media?
Oh, certainly. So for the group Calcio Napoli Club USA, we are on Twitter. Our handle is CNCUSA26. We try to participate there, but if you the real nitty gritty good stuff, I think is in the Facebook group. So it is a private group, so your girlfriend or your boss won't see you talking, so you're good. But come see us on Facebook. You put in the request, I'll approve it right away. I vet a little bit. The reason why I do that is to keep out the spam. So don't worry about it. But once I see you have anything Napoli on your page, I approve right away. So come check us out on Facebook. If you like, I'm on Twitter. And I try to kind of pull from there. But Facebook group is where it's at. Tons of people. That's where all the good debates go on, and the podcasts. Come by if you speak English or Italian. Just come in. We would love to have you in our group. All right. And shout out to Giuseppe D'Angelis, my co-founder of the group. Definitely a good guy. He is Ludo's nephew, by the way. So
get out of here, Ludo from ISG.
Man.
No.
Yeah, so,
You shouldn't have told me that, because now it's a mission. We have to have Ludo on this show now.
Yeah, man. That's what Giuseppe claims to me, so I'm pretty sure, but I don't think he's lying to me. So, TV got the uncle, we got the nephew, so it's all good.
I'm going to have to get at Giuseppe about that. All right,
yeah.
Pleasure. It was a pleasure talking to you today. Forza Napoli sempre. We are out of here.